fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine.
Hi, this is one of the hardest videos I've ever had to make. Actually, I don't have to make this video per se, but I want to make it. It has taken me 8 years to make this video. For the past 8 years, I've had plenty of time to assess, reassess, evaluate why we did what we did and how we could have done it differently. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a dog that appeared into my life all of a sudden and that changed everything. It changed my life, it changed the life of this organization, it changed the focus of our work in this country. Today I'm going to tell you the story of Tidus. Many of you will remember him. It happened 8 years ago to the date. It was 27th of November, just barely a few days ago, 8 years ago. I was traveling that day. I was with a friend of mine. I had gone to Holland to deliver a dog home when I received an urgent call from my brother telling me that a dog had been rescued over here in the village where we live, and he had been found completely burned alive. Somebody found this dog at a dog park, kidnapped him, took him to another location, tied him to a fence, dosed him with gasoline, and set him alight, set him on fire. By that time, that happened 8 years ago, so I had been rescuing dogs for nearly 7 years, and I thought I had seen everything. But something of this magnitude and of this cruelty I had never seen before. I immediately told my brother to coordinate with the people that found him to take him to our vet and to try to stabilize him and see what we could do while I flew back to Spain the following morning. His name was Tidus, and he was a family dog. He had just been adopted from an animal rescue organization from Modepran a few months before, and he lived with the family and everything was going well. The family loved him and he was loved and cherished. And one day the family just took him to the park, and the doggy was free running around with other dogs, and suddenly this happened. When I first saw him, I didn't understand the gravity of the situation. He was badly burned, but as it happens in many of these cases, all his fur was still there. So initially I thought, okay, he's burned, but I'm sure he's gonna be okay. I could see that he was losing most of the fur already, but the injuries, it wasn't so striking, so terrible at first. Of course, that didn't last long, and we soon realized the gravity of the situation and what we were facing. He had been dosed with gasoline. What makes someone want to do something like this to a helpless animal? I will never understand. In those days, I had just arrived to Spain. I had been living in Turkey for many years, for 12 years, and I had landed here 1 month earlier, or a month and a half earlier. I was new. My home was empty. I didn't have furniture yet. My dogs had just arrived. We were all accommodating to life here in Spain. My dog Peque was still alive, and my dog Kajal was with us, and we had just moved in. And suddenly I found myself with the most difficult and hardest case of my career as an animal rescue. I say career because no one chooses to do this as a career. It just happens. So the procedure, the protocol in those days was the same as it is today. We focus on stabilizing the dog, on making sure that he felt no pain. We use strong pain medications. We use morphine. In the years after this happened, we have rescued other animals that were also burned. We've rescued cats that were burned. Olaf comes to mind. Remy was also burned. We rescued Yoko, another dog that was burned. But Tidus was my first burn patient. So we started working on it. In those days, I was working with Juan, my local vet. I didn't know of Valencia Sur, the hospital that we started working shortly after that. And Juan told me from the beginning, look, Ivan, this is going to be very difficult. Born patients, this is a really difficult thing to treat, and it evolves badly, and you should have been there, you should have seen this. He was an adolescent dog. He was barely more than a puppy. He was so full of life, and he wanted to live. And the situation was so unjust and so unfair. I said, look, let's do whatever we can that is humanly possible. From the beginning, we had an avalanche of support. People helped us. We were treating his injuries with a special honey, with Manuka. We were adhering to a very strict pain management protocol. And I can tell you that his pain was greatly reduced. But of course, he was very uncomfortable. Then the fur started falling, and the skin was exposed. Since that happened, as I said, we've seen terrible things with cats like Olaf or Yoko. We knew what we do. And we followed the same protocol. Extreme hydration, making sure antibiotics were applied all throughout so that there will be no infection, so that the whole thing wouldn't go into a vicious circle. And we managed to save them all. We have saved every burn patient we have ever rescued, except the first, except Tidus. For days and days, we treated that skin. We made sure there was no infection. We controlled his pain, but we could see the injuries were deteriorating. The gasoline, the fire, hadn't burned only the skin. It also burned the bone. It got to the bone. And that's when we realized that we may lose him. The day Juan told me that his kneecap, his rotula, was also burned, and that he will lose it. That day I thought, oh God. Initially I thought, okay, maybe if he has to lose a leg, both legs, the rotulas were born, maybe we can amputate the legs. He will do okay with just two legs, with the front legs, and we considered it for a while. But the injuries were too extensive, and we didn't know if the traumatic surgery of amputating both legs, if he will make it. So instead, we accepted the help of a biotechnology company over here in Spain, who offered us to treating the skin and helping us create new skin. The name was called Tissue Lab. I think I remember Tissue Lab. They meant very well. I'm sure they meant well. But nothing we did worked. We tried to put new tissue over the bone, on the rotula. We tried, we were looking for options, we were looking for, it didn't work. It didn't work. It just didn't work. The skin didn't take, and you know, you have seen us trying procedures, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work, but usually there is an alternative. Usually there is an option B and an option C. But in Tidus' case, we didn't have an alternative plan. There was not a B plan. The injuries were too extensive, the damage was too deep. We were just reacting as things evolve. It's very easy to look back and think, okay, well, I should have done this or I should have done that. And from the benefit of hindsight and being in the future, it's very easy to take decisions in the past, to evaluate and to judge someone by the things that he did or didn't do. But the reality is that we did our absolute best based on what we knew, based on the possibilities at our reach, and based on the support that we had. We didn't have problems with support. Our friends and donors contributed, and we covered all expenses, and we were able to look for alternatives elsewhere. We were able to consider treatments and consider surgeries and procedures that were out of reach by anyone else. But the fact is that his injuries were too deep, and in the end, Tidus didn't make it. That was the hardest month of my life. I spent the entire month of December practically living at the clinic where we were. Juan and I spent many nights sitting right next to him, comforting him, making sure that he was in a good mood, making sure that he wasn't focusing on the pain, and making sure that there was enough pain management and everything to go through this. But in the end, Tidus died. It was the New Year's, and he died on the 31st of December, I believe. I spent that New Year's at home alone, crying because I had lost him. It's taken me 8 years to make this video, to tell this story again, to revisit those days. And I think I'm making this video today because it's Christmas, it's the run up to Christmas, and because I'm just remembering how it was. December, Spain, everyone was buying things and gifts, Christmas gifts for their families, and I didn't have a family of my own in those days. My children will come years later, so I had nobody to offer anything, and it was just me and my dogs. So to me, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, it made no difference. I was just completely focused on our organization, on delivering the best treatment we could, looking for alternatives. At the time, I didn't know what I know today. Maybe if at the time we had been working with the hospital we work with today, maybe with Jorge, we could have saved him. But maybe not. I don't think so. Those injuries in the bone were too deep. Maybe we could have amputated one leg, maybe two. Maybe we could have saved him like we saved Olaf and Yoko and Remy. But we couldn't. We couldn't. For the past 8 years, I have revisited those days very often. I remember how I felt. I remember the connection I built with that amazing doggy. That case, I mean, if you can call case a living animal and someone that you build a relationship with, but that case, they brought us a lot of attention, Many people understood why we were trying to save him, but many people criticized us enormously for even trying. Now, 8 years later, to those people that criticize us, I will say that if this happened again, as it has happened again after that, I will do exactly the same. Knowing what we knew then, I will have done exactly the same. Knowing what I know today, the treatment will have been different. But I also can tell you that I will have gone right till the end. That Tidus wouldn't have died because of lack of care and lack of love and lack of resources. And that our focus will have remained entirely on saving his life. Making sure that he will have good quality of life. Making sure that there will be a wonderful family waiting for him. But he will have had the absolute best veterinary care at his disposal. We have always known when to give up. This is something that you learn very early when you start saving lives and rescuing animals. I've always known where was the time. And in Tidus' case, when we got to that point, I also knew when to let it go. But we cannot forget that we are just acting as a reaction against evil. That Christmas that I spent with Tidus was the hardest of my entire life. At some point I even thought, well, maybe this is all pointless. Why am I doing this? Everyone is at home enjoying Christmas and with their families, and here I am completely alone. My dogs are home alone, and I'm in this hospital floor taking care of a dog that is not even mine. But then I looked at Juan, I looked at Monica, I looked at Paula, the nurses, and I realized that they were also there with me, and that they were also spending that Christmas with me, and they were also going to spend this Christmas, this New Year's Eve with me and Tidus, and it all made sense. So if a dog like Tidus appears, I will do exactly the same again. And we have done so many times since that happened. Anyway, Tidus passed. He left his memory, he left his teachings. I will never forget the way that brave little dog faced what he faced, and the relationship I built with him. Yeah, 8 years. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.